Union for Public School Teachers rallied this week, pushing a constitutional amendment that they proposed that would let the state impose a surcharge on investment properties. But opponents say that the way the bill is worded could harm local businesses. Mileka Lincoln is live to hear from critics of the amendment. Morning, Mileka.
Aloha, good morning, Steve. Yes, you know, one of the concerns about this is the way that this constitutional amendment, which will be on the November 6th ballot, is specifically written. So let's go ahead and walk you through this word by word so you know exactly what we're talking about. Now, after several revisions through the legislature, what ended up passing through the state legislature was this constitutional amendment. Shall the legislature be authorized to establish, as provided by law, a surcharge on investment real property to be used to support public education? Now, as you can hear from that question, it does not define what real property is or even set up what was originally intended, according to the bill's author, Senator Michelle Kidani, to be a $1 million threshold. So joining me now with more on the concerns that have been raised about this, Monica Toguchi Ryan of Highway Inn, which is where we are right now here, your Kaka'aka location. Thank you for having us. Tell me a little bit about what you're specifically concerned about.
I think on this particular measure on the ballot coming up on November 6th, there's really, it seems like it's a conflated question. It's really two things. I commend the Hawaii State Teachers Association because we do have a public education issue that our community together has to address. That is, something that I strongly feel about. However, it's about, does the public or the community support a tax to support public education? And the second question in there is, are we as a community okay with a carte blanche to our Hawaii State Legislature in terms of how they are going to then define and pursue the authority to tax real property? Those issues have not been well defined. And I think that's the concern of the business community in general. For people like myself in small business, we've had to deal with years of minimum wage increases. We had to deal with a very tight labor market. We've had to deal with increasing healthcare costs. We have the Prepaid Healthcare Act and the national requirement to also provide healthcare for our staff. And the last thing is we've had to deal with increasing energy costs recently. And so for small businesses, it's really an issue of how do we manage all of this without having to affect the consumer. And I think ultimately it affects the consumer, which then affects how we do business here in Hawaii.
Right. So do you think that this essentially needs to go back to the drawing board and to have the legislature more specifically and clearly outline the intent before it becomes a constitutional amendment on a ballot?
I definitely would like to see that. I would definitely like to see, all parties concerned. I think the entire community really should be concerned about public education. I do want to see us as a community rise above all of this and find solutions. This is something that definitely needs to be addressed, but we as a community also have to be very careful with the type of authority that we are giving to our state legislature to just decide. I think there's a general perception of do we need a comprehensive budget reform, for example? Do we need to hold our government more accountable to how they spend public monies? Do we need to hold the Department of Education accountable with their budget? Truly, are they really in a position of deficit where they need more money, or is it the way that money is being spent? There's a lot of questions to that. However way we find the answers to that is, I think, the direction that we should be going. I think this is the right direction. However, there's a lot of unanswered questions.
More conversation needs to take place. All right, Monica Toguchi Ryan, thank you so much. And again, we are here at Highway Inn this morning to talk with small business owners about their concern regarding this constitutional amendment. We'll be back in half an hour with more. For now, though, Steve, back to you.
All right, thank you, Mileka. Police say alcohol appears to be a factor in an overnight crash on Likelike Highway that critically